And welcome back. What we want to do now is something like this, where the axis stays at the same angle throughout, but also revolves while rotating around its axis. So let's get into that. This is where we left off, so if you haven't already, save. But then save again, save as, and let's increment that up. That way we can always go back to the file and make any kind of changes we want. Get out of this view. Not what I wanted. Out of that view. I'm going to go back to the 240. And hit 1 on the number pad. Make sure we're at the very beginning there. And there's a bunch of different ways to solve a problem. The question is can you find something that solves your problem? We've already got this thing that will rotate, and what we want to do is get it to revolve around this center right here. So one of the options that we can do is use a curve. So if I go to the top view by hitting number pad 7 and hit Shift A, add a curve circle. Well, first off, it defaulted back to our beginning and we don't want that. So I'm going to hit Control Z, hit Shift S, and go cursor to world origin. That puts the cursor right back here in the center. So Shift A, now we add our curve circle, scale it up a bit. If we tell our Earth, hey, why don't you follow this path? So let's choose our empty, then hit our curve, right click, parent, follow path. That's what we're going to get. Let me move this over. Start it again. And first off, it's going in the wrong direction. It's going this way when it needs to be going this way. That's an easy fix. Hit Tab. See that the arrows are moving in that direction. Right click. Switch direction. Our Earth disappeared. Basically put it back on the circle. No big deal. So I'm going to undo that. The second problem we have is that, well, if you take a look at the axis, first off, right now the way it's positioned toward the light source, the sun, we have summer in the north, winter in the south. If we go all the way over here, what we'll see is that we have summer in the north, winter in the south. What? We can't have summer all year long and winter all year long in the south. That's wrong. That's why this method does not work. It does not solve our problem. If you don't care about that problem, this is a perfectly good thing to use. So, clear parent. Well, let's go back to the beginning. Clear parent. And get rid of that. Another thing that we can do is, while I'm adding a circle is not exactly correct. Let's add that again. Top down. We're assuming it's this, when in all actuality it's closer to maybe this. I mean, right now the orbit of Earth is a little bit more circular, but there's a place where the Earth is closer to the sun and a place where the Earth is further away from the sun, so that the orbits can be somewhat not only circular but also elliptical, particularly with Pluto. If you consider to be Pluto a planet, which I do, Team Pluto, even though it's really teeny tiny small, it's smaller than the moon, I think. Forget how big the moon is, but Pluto's 1,529 miles across. But it's kind of a pain to do an orbit that way. I mean, you could if you were really super invested in doing that. So I'm not going to. Another option you could try, let's go back here, zero the location out. Another thing that you could do is you could say, maybe I want to use another empty to have the empty follow the path and the object to follow the empty. Well, you're going to have the same problem that we had before where the axis doesn't move and we're always in summer in the north, winter in the south. So that's going to work about the same way as we've already done it. So what is an answer that we can use? Well, what you could do, especially if you wanted to use the more elliptical orbits, is you could use an empty to follow the path and a constraint for the Earth to follow the location. That doesn't make any sense, I know, and I'm not going to do it because really and truly I don't care about the elliptical orbit. It's only really that bothersome when you're dealing with Pluto that has a very eccentric orbit. What I'm going to do instead is I am going to hide my Earth, go to top-down mode, and I'm going to scale this circle such that it just crosses over where those empties are. You don't have to be super precise, but get it as close as you can. Alright, now doing that, or having done that, I'm going to go to Edit. I'm going to select that point, and you can do this with a circle just as well. Just add a few more subdivisions. I'm going to select just that point such that nothing else on that is selected, and then I'm going to tab out of it. I am going to take my rotation Y, and I'm going to make it a child of, well, let me rename that circle first. Earth Revolves. Yeah, circle. Alright, so I'm going to take my rotation Y, make it a child of Earth Revolves of my circle, but not of the entire circle, because that's going to have the season problem. Instead, I'm going to go into, with both of them selected like this, into edit mode by hitting tab, and I'm going to go to control points, make vertex parent, confirm, and then the only thing I have to do after that is take this circle right here, Earth Revolves, do a keyframe, I, for rotation. I'm going to go over to 120, and I'm going to rotate that circle by the Z, so RZ, 360, hit enter, add my keyframe, rotation. So let's take a look and see how that went. Not that way. All these keys so close to one another. Go back to the beginning. It's rotating and it's revolving. Score! Now it stopped because we don't have any keyframes over here. We do what we did before. Here we can just go ahead and hit T, make our transition, our speed linear. Go to the graphics mode, graphics editor, hit home. And because we hit T, it's already linear. We want to hit this point right here. Not this one, just that one. Hit N if you don't have this box up. Modifiers, add modifier. Cycles, none before. and repeat with offset after. Go back to the 3D viewport and let's see how we're doing. We're moving. We're shaking. And we can do the same thing with Earth Revolves. Let's see where our camera view is. Now, the one difference between using a mesh circle and using a curve circle is that with a curved circle, you have curve modifiers. You have curve options that you can use. And one of them, like if we rendered an image right now, alright, so you can see now that we've rendered our image, we don't care that the Earth is dark at the moment. You don't see the orbit. And maybe you want to see the orbit. Well, with a curved circle, you can go in under the Geometry tab, add under the Bevel section some depth. Let's make it 1. Really exaggerate it. Maybe that's a bit much. So 0.1, and you can see the orbit. You can add a material to it. You can make it visible in your render. Let's render that out. So yeah, you can make it where you can actually see the orbit path. Give it a material. Nothing fancy. Set your camera up. And this one's going to be 120 frames, so... But just treat it just like we did with the rotate. Just don't forget to turn your transparent off, go into your world settings, and choose your own background. Yeah. Alright, so now it's time to change our location for the render. And have at it. We want to change it to 120. And up here, make sure that that is 120. It should be. And now it's time to make that a little bit smaller. Hit Control for a little bit more control. Just to make sure our Earth doesn't really go off the sides there. Hit Shift, kind of move it up a little bit to make sure that it's not bottom heavy. And have at it. And we are done. So, let's take a look at that. View, animation. Now, if we were to legitimately do this, we should technically have the Earth rotating every keyframe (1080 degrees). So, you know, doing the RZZ or RZ, whatever it is we did, at every one of these keyframes, it should be RZ 1080. 3 rotations per keyframe in order to be somewhat legitimate. Now, when it gets around here, it's dark. Don't worry about the dark. The dark is normal. The dark is nighttime. We still get day during the winter here because the Earth rotates. Alright, and we can do the same thing with this one that we did with the last one. So if we looked at the original video, this is what we got. 4 seconds, because we did 120 frames at 30 frames per second. 4 seconds. So if we did the same thing with this one that we did with the rotation video, by putting it through loops in the VSDC editor, we can get the same 2 minutes. So click off that, import content, find out where we are, rename it, keep the defaults, go over here to loop mode, drop down menu, loop video. We had 120 frames. That gave us 4 seconds. So if we did the same 3600, let's see what that gets us. And 2 minutes. What do you know? Now we want to export our project. The same settings we had still work. And we're ready to go. Export project. Hit continue. Alright, now that we are complete, it took about 2 minutes to render 2 minutes worth of video, whereas it took forever and a day to render out 4 seconds of video in Blender, which is why I like using this method. So, let's take a look at it. And here we are. Nice. Summer, fall, winter, spring. And in the southern hemisphere, we've got winter, spring, summer, fall. Excellent. Well, if you liked this video or got anything useful out of it, hit like or subscribe. Join me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever. Have a nice day.